Hi guys and welcome to Hampshire Outdoors of Survival. Mickey speaking. Bit of information up there for you. That is the email address and also the dates of the next camp. Anyhow, let's get into the subject of today. Long-term survival. What have you got to think about, or what would I personally think about in long-term survival? So I'm not talking about the events happened, it's occurred, okay? Because I'm going beyond that. I've already trained and prepared for the initial dealing with the event. Those first 90 days, the shelter, the fire, the water, the feeding, the caring for myself. But it suddenly looks like this event is possibly going to go on well into the future, maybe even weeks, days, months, or years, or possibly this is the future. How am I going to start thinking about that long term survival? Well, long term survival is based around a group, community. It has to be. No one man is an island. You're not going to survive on your own happily, having a great life forever on your Todd. You're going to get lonely. One day you'll get sick, you'll get ill, there'll be nobody to care for you, no support, and yes, the world goes to pot for you. So you need to build a community, and within that community, you want to gain skill sets. Now, as much of this, you want to try and have a better knowledge in yourself, and the more knowledge you can gain, the easier it's going to become. But you're going to look for people with various skills and abilities, and you are going to get the community, if you can, to try and share as much of it as possible. So I'm going to go through the 20 odd skills that I think would be essential to have within your community for a long term survival situation. And it starts with the most basic and obvious one: medical. Doctors, nurses, dentists, people with this sort of knowledge in a long term survival situation are going to be essential. They're also going to help to protect your people from sickness and illness, but they're going to be able to deal with things like setting bones, dealing with minor ailments, dealing with some major ailments. After all, they were taking appendixes out 100 years ago, and appendicitis kills. So, having somebody there with those skills and abilities, and even if you haven't, knowing the basics of things like first aid, trauma aid, and that will always give you the edge and the ability. The next person that I would want within my community is going to be gardeners. People who know and understand growing plants, the pollination, the storing of seeds, when to plant, how to fertilize, how to feed, and how to grow my fruit, my vegetables, my plants. Okay, these things are going to be essential. You're going to need to know this knowledge, because it's okay just relying on foraging, but it's not going to give you everything you want. If you have somebody that can grow potatoes, fantastic. Great form of starch and that. You're going to be able to harvest them, and you're going to be able to maintain yourselves and keep going. The next guy who sits alongside that person is the farmer, the livestock manager, somebody who knows the breeding, the caring for, the maintaining of livestock, how to milk, how to produce cheese. All those things are going to be essential. And again, also the knowledge of slaughter and butchering of meat, and the preparation and the preserving of that meat. Going to be skills that are going to be needed. It's one thing to just say, "Oh, I'm going to live off of rabbits," but hey, why live off of rabbits when you can have a flock of sheep, or you can have a herd of cattle and keep them instead? They're going to give you milk, butter, cheese. It's a win-win situation. But you're going to need knowledge to do that. It's not just something where you can stick a cow in a field and leave it. So again, having the farmer there is going to be essential. Hunters. Hunting's a great skill. It's a wonderful skill. But better than that is trapping. Okay? So the knowledge of trapping, being able to set traps for game and for fish. Okay? It saves energy. It takes less resources. It means that you can go out, or your hunter can go out once every 24 hours, 48 hours, check his trap lines and bring back what he's caught. Okay, it's a great system. It's a better method. Okay, alongside that is the forager. The forager can walk alongside, or the hunter can become the forager. They can work together whilst they're out. Okay, and that forager will know, or ideally know, the edible plants, the resources, the herbal plants, a good understanding of the vitamins, minerals that you're going to need on a daily basis, because you can't just go to Amazon and order your vitamin C. It doesn't exist anymore. Where can you gain these things from? So again, the forager, alongside the hunter, alongside the farmer, alongside the gardener, will help to build your community and help it to grow. Okay. So again, let me just go back to my notes so I don't repeat myself or get lost. Other skills that are going to be worth having. Now, these are old skills that have been around for thousands of years that often people forget about. But the candle maker and the soap maker, okay? The candle maker can produce candles, whether it be from tallow, whether it be from natural materials, but it can provide you light, rush lights and such methods, using pine tars, birch tars, things to produce light at night. There's nothing worse than sitting in the dark. The soap maker, somebody who can produce you a material that's going to keep you clean, help to disinfect you, help to prevent that illness, infection, and so forth. Help to clean the clothes so that the clothes last longer and are preserved and to keep you warm. Okay, they're great skills to have. They're essential skills. Alongside that comes sewing and knitting. Okay, the ability to make clothing, the ability to repair clothing, the ability to make blankets, the ability to knit socks, gloves, hats, masks, and so on. These are all skills that were passed down generation after generation by our ancestors and were essential skills. They're worth having and knowing. Okay, if you've got a grandmother that knits, I don't care whether you're a bloke or not, sit there, ask her, show me how to knit. Okay, because you will always, once you've learned that skill, you will always be able to produce a pair of socks, a pair of gloves, or a hat. It might look a bit weird and strange. We've all had Auntie Maudrey's Christmas jumper with one arm longer than the other and a tiny neck up. But at the end of the day, those abilities and skills are there for a reason. They're worth passing on. Okay. The lost art of preserving and canning food. Okay. And this is going to be important, the knowledge of how to preserve food, how to keep food for the winter months, how to keep those fruits, those vegetables. Okay, so again, the art of canning, especially, is something worth having. It's still being done all over the world today. It requires no refrigeration. It's a great storage technique. So these abilities are essential to have. Okay, brewing alcohol. Now, you say, Mickey, brewing alcohol, surely alcohol's not going to be a great help in the survival situation. So look at it this way, you've built your community, and sometime your community's going to want to sit down and have a bit of a party. Okay? Alcohol helps with that. Alcohol also helps to preserve food, grains. It can be used to sterilize things. Okay? And it's a bartering tool. It's a trading tool. It is something that you can swap with other communities, okay, with other people. It's a way of managing situations as well, okay. So again, having alcohol, you've got to be sensible about it, but having alcohol and the ability to brew alcohol is going to be essential. And yes, I'm talking about you, Chris, with your moonshine cider. So again, great skills to have and abilities to have. The next one, which I'm only going to mention a little bit on, is blacksmithing. Speaks to itself. The ability to make, forge items, tools, and equipment. Okay, even in the most basic form, it's essential. It's worth having. Okay, blacksmith was always held in high esteem in any village or community throughout the world. The next skill is beekeeping. Beekeepers. Oh, we don't talk much about it today. It's become a hobby. Once upon a time, beekeepers were venerated people. They were one of the few ways to get sugars and energy out of the ground. Other than that, you're going to go to things like growing crops like beet, okay, to get sugar. And it's a lot of work and process to get the sugar from it. However, the art of beekeeping, it's worth having, it's worth knowing. Again, many years ago, honey was called liquid gold, and it was called liquid gold for that reason. It was so important, medicinal, medical, and food source. It's worth having. So that brings me to a hobby and a pastime for a lot of people: horsemanship. Okay, knowing how to ride, how to use a draft animal, they're going to be essential tools. Okay, and the welfare and caring for a horse, again, it's not as simple as just sticking it in a field and giving it a bit of grass. So the knowledge of caring for, breeding, looking after, and using things like the tack that a horse wears, the saddle, and so forth, the essential knowledge. So again, if you've got somebody that you know and a family that rides, or if you fancied learning, go and get yourself some riding lessons. Learn the techniques and the methods. Okay, it's well worth having. So other skills that are worth carrying with you and learning are simpler skills that are easy to pick up, take a bit of time, but methods to pick up are things like brick making. If you can make bricks, you can build buildings. Okay, builders, people to have in your community, guys with building knowledge, guys that understand how to move water from one place to another, construct a roof, make a structure that is sound and going to last. Okay, those are great abilities to have. Rope makers, rope maker and cordage, skills that you can learn there from making cordage from natural fibres, whether it be nettles or sinews. Okay, great knowledge to have. Mechanical skills. Anybody with any form of mechanical skill can usually turn their hands to other things. It tends to mean they're very good with their dexterous ability, and they can probably take stuff that we have today and adapt it to be used in other ways. Okay, whether it's running a drill using a water mill, whether it's making a hammer for the blacksmith so that he's got a press, and so on and so on. These are going to be great skills. And again, you see, I'm talking about long term. I'm talking about rebuilding a society. I'm talking about travelling back in time, 1800s and before. How did we get by? The knowledge is all there. These are all methods and systems that were used. Other people that are worth having within your community are going to be people like musicians. Because at some time you've got to sit down, you've got to relax, or you've got to celebrate. If you've got a musician, okay, it makes it so much more fun. It's good for morale. You've got to have a historian, somebody who can take old knowledge, transfer it to today, somebody that can take your story, your knowledge, your history of what is happening to you to be passed on to your children, to be passed on to their children and their children, to rebuild society and bring it back. We often just think of our own lifespan, but the knowledge we have will have to be imparted onto our children and their children and so forth and so forth. That's why we're here. That's why we do what we do. People, another good person to have in your community is a negotiator, somebody who can calm situations down. In the Norse, it was a lawgiver. And the lawgiver wasn't a lawgiver because he had the power of giving law. He was a lawgiver because he had the ability to read situations, calm things down, spread oil on water, keep things calm, stop violence, stop aggression, and so on. He was a guy that actually built trade with other people as well, because he could go and he could negotiate in a fair and firm manner that meant everybody was happy with the situation. You're also going to need a leader. The leader is, I don't think it's a good idea to have the negotiator as a leader. I think the leader needs to be an individual in his own right. And for this reason, when I've spoken to people from older societies and that, they always say the leader is the one to blame. Okay, you are going to need somebody to blame. Look at today's politics. Okay, so at the end of the day, it's one thing to be the leader. Just remember, when it goes wrong, who's everybody going to point the finger at? Okay, but you do need a leader. You need a focal point for people to stand around. Whether you have a community, excuse me, a community political system where you all have a vote and a say, or whether you defer to one person, you're still going to need that focal point, that leader, that speaker, and so forth to stand there and take it when it's rough. Okay. Other things to do is to build and save knowledge. One of the things you can do today to prepare yourself for a long-term survival situation is to gather knowledge. And now it's hard to put all that knowledge into your head in one go. But you can preserve the knowledge. You can preserve the knowledge through books, reference guides, things to go back to, whether it's wilderness survival, whether it's the SAS survival guide, grains, nuts, fruits, and beans that you can harvest to maintain, the knowledge to forage, going out and learning what plants you can use, survival handbooks, medical handbooks, building handbooks, primitive skills handbooks, animal husbandry. It's all out there. Okay, all you've got to do is build a library, and it doesn't even need to be a massive library, and it doesn't need to cost you the earth. I quite often look around things like charity shops, car boot sales. It's fantastic what you can find in old print, and it's worth keeping and applying to the future. And that's what you need to know. To move forward into the future in a long-term survival situation, all you need to do is to look back to the past. Your ancestors survived for thousands of years using ancient knowledge, passing it on from young to old or old to young, from generation to generation. That's all you've got to do. We have the ability, okay? People live like it all over the world today, okay, and thrive. So it's nothing to be afraid of. Anyhow, guys, that's my little chat for today. Let me know what you think. Chuck us a comment. Am I talking absolute waffle? Or do you think I've got some good points? Are there some other people you would include in your list, okay, to build your community? Are there others that you think, I would go for one of these, one of those if I could? And bear in mind, you're not going to be able to necessarily find all these people to build your community. So again, going back to the knowledge, right? And having a mind that says, okay, I'm going to have to learn this skill, or I'm going to have to look it up and practice it and try it. Okay, ask any of the guys that have done the one night survival challenge about bow drill. None of us were bow drill fans beforehand. None of us are bow drill fans now. However, we've managed to learn a difficult technique and make it work. So that's the way it goes. Guys, thank you for watching the video. If you've stayed with me this far, thank you very much. Give us a like, okay? Give us a comment. And if you haven't already, please subscribe. I've got nearly 200 videos in my back catalogue covering all sorts of subjects from when I first started this to today. Yeah, I'm not an expert. I'm just somebody that has studied these skills and methods and taught them for many, many years and want to share. I want to leave something for my granddaughter or my grandchildren and so on and share it with other people. We've built a community through this channel, and this community gets together on a Sunday night for a Sunday night live stream. So 2000 hours every Sunday, we have our Sunday social, which is just a get together in the pub. It's a laugh, a joke, a natter. People throw up ideas, methods, ask questions, but they come together as a community, and it's a worldwide thing. We have people from all over the world, and I'm giving you an invite now. If you want to join us, by all means do. Okay, or just come sit back and watch it and think, yeah, do I want part of that or not? Guys, wherever you are in this glorious world of ours, have a wonderful day. In fact, have a wonderful week. Okay, I'll finish this off with my usual saying: love those you do, forgive those you don't, and peace and light be upon you all. Until we talk again, this is Mickey at Hampshire Outdoors and Survival, wishing you well. Till next time.